Indy, over here.
Indiana Jones, at your service, Toad. Ah!
Indiana Jones and other action figures new from Raiders of the Lost Ark collection, each sold separately.
Watch him, Cairo, swordsman. Yeah, watch my swing. Yikes!
Back again, guys, and today we're not Star Wars junk. We're going to be Indiana Jones junk while we take a look at the Kenner Indiana Jones action figure line and why it failed.
You'll be sorry, Jones.
Tricked you again, Toad.
Indiana Jones, Tote, and Cairo Swordsman action figures, each sold separately from Raiders of the Lost Ark collection, new from Kenner.
I like Indiana Jones. You like Indiana Jones. Kids like Indiana Jones. Even Belloc likes Indiana Jones.
I am a shadowy reflection of you.
Okay, maybe not Belloc. As a kid growing up in the 80s, I loved Indiana Jones. It was the next best thing to Star Wars. Well, that isn't until Amy Covey started the 3rd grade. But that's a different story. Kids love Indiana Jones. So why didn't the Kenner line, or any line after it, succeed? After Kenner's line failed, JLN released Temple of Doom. If you can call it a figure line, it only had 2 figures. And it also failed. And then in the late 2000s, during the time that Crystal Skull was released, Hasbro relaunched Indiana Jones. And again, it failed. Kids don't play with Indiana Jones, and I want to know why. So let's take a look at the Kenner line. First up, let's look at the action figures of the Indiana Jones line. Like this guy right here. Sadly, I don't have many. I've got an Indy I can't find. So we're going to have to use pictures from now on.
There's a picture of it right here. That's it.
Good God. Yes, that's just what the Hebrews thought.
The figure line had a total of 9 figures. 10 if you count the horse, and I think 12 if you count the exclusive. Yes, it's 12. There's a India that comes with a playset, I think the map room, and the Monkey Man comes with the Streets of Cairo playset. So that's what we have with the figures. Let's look at Indiana Jones. First up, this figure looks great for the time period, as the whole line looks really good. The only thing bad about Indiana Jones is, one, he looks bow-legged, and second is, more as a collector, it's almost impossible to find one without the thumb broke off. What's the deal with Indiana Jones' thumb? We're not looking at why collectors like them. We're looking at why kids did not like them. Indiana Jones came with a quick draw action. That's why you just pulled his arm back and he threw out that gun or threw out that whip so he could whip up some Nazis or shoot some Germans. And the Indiana Jones figure probably sold the best of them all. But what else did kids have to play with in the line? Unlike the Star Wars toys at the time, Indy couldn't go after aliens and droids. So who was his arch enemy to go after? Yep, an old French man named Rene Belloc. This line had 2 Belloc figures, but the most common is the boring dad outfit figure. And how fun is this for kids? An action figure that's dressed like your dad. If anything, Kenner should have released the Belloc from the beginning of Raiders. At least then he would have had a nice little hat. What kid wanted to play with an action figure that dressed like his dad's co-worker? Another Belloc, seen here, was a mail order only. So he's not a very common figure. He was dressed, as you can see, in his robes. I'm missing the chest plate, so we'll show a picture of it. But he was dressed in his robes. Ooh, a Belloc in church clothes. Even before you knew what a BFF was, Indiana Jones had one, and his name was Salah.
A British tar is a soaring soul.
But would kids put down Greedo and Hammerhead so they could play with an overweight best friend, the Chewbacca of the Indiana Jones series? Of course not. And again, the figure looks great. I'll give him that, but it has no good play value. But he did come with a torch. Also, if you lose his robes, like I did, don't ask me why I took them off. That's a whole nother video and years of therapy. And once you have a Salah that looks like this, trust me, he never comes out of the toy box again. Indiana Jones had a girlfriend, and her name was Marion Ravenwood.
Right.
I'll say this again, she looks great. But what play value did the Marion figure have? Unlike the Princess Leia in the Star Wars toy line, Marion didn't even come with a gun. But she did come with a monkey that betrayed her. The Marion did also come with something else, something unique to the line. A clear plastic stand. Yep. The Marion action figure wouldn't even stand up. Some action, right? And Kenner decided to release this Marion wearing her dinner dress. How fun is that for kids to play with? An action figure dressed like she's going to supper. This brings us to the figure that's probably the best one for Indiana Jones to play with. The Cairo Swordsman. However, it was just a guy. Unlike Star Wars that has stormtroopers where you could build up an army for the heroes to fight, you really couldn't build an army with the Cairo Swordsman, so one was enough. However, he did come with a knife and his sword, making him one of the best figures for Indy to fight with. A little warning, growing up all my life I thought this guy's name was Tot, so I'm going to call him Tot. And I think it's pronounced differently, and I'm drawing a blank right now, but all my life, me and my brother called him Tot. So, we're going to talk about this guy, Tot. He was the bad guy of bad guys. Even the bad guys didn't like this bad guy. Now that's bad. But as a parent, do you want to buy your kid with an action figure that always has a Nazi salute? I think not. Even if parents didn't know they were buying a Nazi toy for their kid, he's still a boring figure. I mean, don't get me wrong, the character's great, the figure looks great, but for play value, again, he's just a boring guy. Again, we'll go back to Star Wars because it was the leading toy figures at the time. They had aliens and droids, stormtroopers, and Indiana Jones. Just an old bald-headed man. And we got another bad guy for Indiana Jones. And this one's pretty good for him to fight with. And that's the German mechanic. But he came with nothing. I mean, the guy didn't even come with a shirt. But if you ask me, out of all the bad guys for Indy to play with, next to the Cairo Swordsman, the German mechanic was probably the best one to have. But also, like the Cairo Swordsman, this German mechanic was too identified with the character of the movie. So it wasn't someone kids would buy over and over again like a stormtrooper to build an army with. So now we're going to talk about another bad guy. Well, it's a good guy. But if you're like me and grew up on the toys, he was a bad guy. Because I needed bad guys. And this was Indiana Jones disguised as a German soldier. And you could buy multiples of that and make an army out of them. Kind of like the stormtroopers. Although they all have beards and kind of look like Indiana Jones. But this was a pretty good figure for Indiana Jones to fight with. Even if it was Indiana Jones. And the best part? Came with a bazooka. What kid doesn't like a bazooka? And like I said, this was Indiana Jones. But to me, it was just a German soldier. And that's what the line needed. German soldiers. And the final figure, well, some people call it a figure because it's on a plastic card and not in a box, is the Arabian horse. I don't have much to say about this one. Indy sat on it, it galloped, it was nice, it was a cool little addition, and it was a nice little fun toy. So that's a look at the figures. Now let's take a look at the play sets. As a collector, these play sets are amazing and great detail. But for play value, they lack a lot of imagination. So let's take a look at them. First up is the Well of Souls, and this might be the best one of all the play sets. It came with a mummy that always looked like this. But that's okay. Who doesn't like a mummy? But the best off, it came with an ark. And the ark alone is the reason to buy this play set. It's amazing detail, especially for the time. It actually looks better than the one that Hasbro did in the late 2000s. But it didn't just come with an ark. It came with the poles to carry the ark. It came with a wall to bust down. And it even came with 14 snakes. So Indy could say,
Why did it have to be snakes?
the map room. It looks better on the box than it does in your living room playing with it. One of the best things about this playset is it came with a satchel for Indiana Jones. So finally your Indiana Jones figure had his satchel. The map room did come with an Indiana Jones figure dressed in his robes. But outside the map room, it wasn't too much fun for kids to play with a robed. Is that a word? Robed? What's the plural of robe? Robes? Robed. Robe. Anyway, he's not much fun to play with. And again, it looks silly when you take his robes off. We're going to play with him in the map room or team him up for Salah to do some kind of Spies Like Us adventure. He wasn't that much fun. And another playset, if you want to call it a playset, the Streets of Cairo. And that's right, a street playset. Wow! we're having fun now. So what did this playset come with? A table. But that's not all. You also got 10 oranges, 2 melons, 3 baskets, and the best part? A cart to put it all in. That's right. Kids are excited now, right? Get to play with oranges. And the best part of this playset, like the map room, it came with a figure. This time it came with the Monkey Man. And Andy needed that. He needed more bad guys to tangle with. It also came with a monkey and a Marion action figure. Well, not really an action figure. I mean, it was crouched down. It didn't bend. It was more like an accessory than a figure. And that leaves us with one more item left. Probably the best in the line, the convoy truck. This thing looked amazing, and it was a lot of fun. You could even hook Indiana Jones to the back of it so the truck could drag him around. The details were great. I can't really say anything bad about this truck because it was the best toy in the line. And it was fun to have Indy drive it or get dragged behind it. So that's it. I mean, they're not bad looking toys. They look great. But why didn't they sell? Well, first off, the first series of figures only had 4 figures. Indy, Marion, Tote, Tot, whatever his name is, and the Swordsman. Not even Belloc, although he was released that year as part of the mail away. But as a standard figure, only 4 figures, and one of them wasn't the main bad guy. But I don't even think that's what killed the line. So what probably hurt this line more than anything? Well, the fact that it was released in 1982, and Raiders of the Lost Ark was released in 1980. 2 years after the movie came out, the figures came out. And this was an era where VCRs was just taking off.
7100, Simplicity in Motion from JVC.
Raiders wasn't on video, so once it left the theater in 1980, kids didn't see it again. And 2 years to us, as a kid back then, that was like 10 years. Sure, we still loved Indiana Jones, but we moved on.
All right! It's 1983!
Kenner canceled the line in 1983, still a year before we got the next Indiana Jones movie, Temple of Doom. Raiders of the Lost Ark was released on video in 1983, but by then the line was dead, and that was still a growing format where every household didn't have VCRs or beta machines. And in fact, I got Raiders of the Lost Ark in 1983. $50. That's right, my grandparents got it to me for Christmas. $50 for a video. And this was not Raiders special edition. This was not Raiders with commentary, deleted scenes. This was a videotape of Raiders, nothing else, for $50. Waiting 2 years to release these Indiana Jones toys sure did hurt the line. And I can't figure out any real reason why Kenner waited so long. But I don't think that's really the main reason Indiana Jones has not been a big seller. And this is why I think Indiana Jones just doesn't sell as well as Star Wars and some other lines. After seeing Indiana Jones, a kid wants to put on an old leather jacket, a fedora, run around the woods in his backyard, jump the creek. He wants to play Indiana Jones, not play with Indiana Jones. Star Wars line was very successful. You had ships, you had aliens, you had droids, you had stuff you didn't see in your backyard. Indiana Jones didn't have that. It just had normal people in a normal Earth environment. So Star Wars opened your imagination. You couldn't play Star Wars really in your backyard. So Kenner brought those figures to life and brought Star Wars into your bedroom. Ooh, sexy, right? But again, Indiana Jones, you wanted to leave your bedroom, go outside. Yes, kids used to go outside back in the 80s. That's what we did. We didn't want to play Indiana Jones in our bedroom. We didn't want to play it on our phone. The idea of playing Indiana Jones on our phone was... Kids wanted to go outside and play Indiana Jones. They didn't want to play with him. And I believe that's the single reason why kids do not buy Indiana Jones. That's why all the lines have kind of fizzled out and didn't sell as good as the toy companies hoped. Anyway, that's a look at the Kenner Indiana Jones line and why we believe it failed. What do you think? Why do you think kids are not buying Indiana Jones? Leave it in the comments below. If we're wrong, let us know. And don't get me wrong. The Kenner Indiana Jones line looks amazing. The figures are great. The play sets are great. But it didn't add any play value for kids. Sure, it looks great for collectors. And if you're an Indiana Jones fan and you can pick up any of the old Kenner, please do. They're worth it. Well, thank you for watching. And remember, we don't have just Star Wars stuff at StarWarsJunk.net. We also have Indiana Jones junk. So check us out at StarWarsJunk.net. Later.